Welcome to the League of Women Voters Meet the Candidates Forum, a program produced by the League in collaboration with WTJX for well over 25 years. I'm Dr. Gwen-Marie Moolenaar, President of the League of Women Voters of the Virgin Islands. It is our hope that through this program, you, the voting public, will have a better understanding of each of the candidates running for the position of senator in the Virgin Islands Legislature and be able to cast an informed vote in November. This has been a challenging time for all of us, hasn't it? As a territory and a nation. As we adapt to this new pandemic and social distancing, we are going virtual with our broadcast this year. It is our goal to still provide programs that will be of value to you as you prepare to vote in November. With me today are two people who are running for the position of senator in the 34th legislature from the St. Croix district. Thank you, candidates, for being here. You have both been informed in advance of the guidelines for the program. After briefly introducing yourselves today, I will pose questions of timely interest. The first responder will be rotated. 90 seconds will be the response time for most questions, unless so indicated in advance. So let's begin now with your introductions. Kindly state only your name, your ballot number, and your political affiliations if necessary. And so let me start with Mr. Carrington.
Good day to everybody. My name is Devin Carrington. I am number 5 on the ballot, and I'm running as an independent candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Carrington, for being here. Mr. Ferris?
Greetings. I am Clint Ferris, number 7 on the ballot, an independent senatorial candidate.
Great. So we have two independents here today. Now, our first question will give you a chance to tell everybody all the good things about you. And our question is this. In both St. Thomas and St. Croix districts, only one seat has been vacated in the Senate. So you might have to replace an incumbent. If both of you are elected, one of you is going to have to replace an incumbent. So can you explain to the voters what qualities, training, experience, and expertise you have that make you best suited for this position and even unseat an incumbent if necessary? So we'll begin with Mr. Ferris for this question. You have 90 seconds, Mr. Ferris.
I check all the
I'm
necessary.
sorry. You have 2 minutes. We're allowing everybody 2 minutes for this question.
No problem. And greetings and thank you to the League of Women's Voters and WTJX for hosting this Meet the Candidates Forum. And to the listening audience, greetings. I check all the necessary boxes to be considered as a qualified and ready candidate for senator. Education and background. I'm a proud Virgin Islander, a courageous Crucian, a born Antiguan, raised in Paradise Mills. Product of public education and a 1991 graduate of St. Croix Central High School. I'm also a college graduate with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in history and a Master's in higher education. That's just my preparation and my readiness for the office. And then talk about my professional experience. I have non-profit experience because I've worked 5 years at the St. Croix Landmark Society in Cultural and Historic Preservation. I worked 7 years at the University of the Virgin Islands, developing young minds and getting them ready for the world. I spent 2 years as a Dean of Students at St. Joseph High School, and then another 7 years at the Department of Human Services as an Assistant Director first, and then the last 2 years as an Administrator of Senior Citizen Affairs, making sure our seniors have all the necessary support and services so they can make a transition from active lifestyle to the years of retirement and transition into full retirement. All of that, I have a knowledge of government operations. I understand emergency and disaster management. I understand customer service, the needs of our clients and the needs of our community. The roles that non-profit play in the health and wellness of our community. I understand government processes, the importance of federal dollars, the importance of managing those federal dollars and making sure those federal dollars are tied to outcomes.
Thank you,
I,
Mr. Ferris. Your 2 minutes are up, and you'll have some more time to expand on this with the
no
questions.
problem.
Now we move to
Thank you,
Mr.
ma'am.
Carrington. Your 2 minutes.
All right, so good. I am a proud graduate of the Central High School here in St. Croix. I went to CDI, then CDI, now UEI, where I got a Bachelor of Arts. I have a Juris Doctorate from Nova Southeastern Law School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've served in the government over 37 years. I've served as a secondary school teacher, as a social worker. I've served as a legal counsel for the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, Department of Health. I've also served as a judicial clerk, and I've served as legal counsel within the legislature for several senators over my tenure. I've also served as a commissioner at the Casino Commission, and I've also served as of late as the commissioner for the Department of Planning and Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. So I do have ample government experience. I think that I understand the government process. I am very good with interacting with people. I believe that my experience and my education lends itself for the job at hand.
Great. Well, thank you so very much for that. And we're going to move on to our first question. And you'll have some more opportunity to talk about your accomplishments as we move through our discussion today. The first question now, you'll each have 90 seconds to respond to, beginning with Mr. Carrington. In the November general election, there will be a referendum question that asks if a convention should be held to adopt the revised Organic Act or portions of it as a constitution for the territory. What is your opinion on this referendum question, Mr. Carrington?
The referendum question, I think, is necessary. Let's put it this way. I have always been of the thought that a constitution needs to be adopted only after status is discussed, because a constitution should reflect what our status is. We've for too long avoided the status question. The status is the framework within which the Constitution would sit. Now, having said that, my position on a referendum on adopting certain portions of revised Organic Act would be that I would have to look at what is proposed. As people may not know, certain provisions of the Bill of Rights are not included and are not applicable to us in the Virgin Islands in our revised Organic Act. I would want us to revise our Organic Act in a way that makes us more included in the full Bill of Rights that are in the United States Constitution.
Great, thank you. Exactly on time. Mr. Ferris, your time. Mr. Ferris, I believe you have muted yourself. You have muted yourself? Yes, there you are.
May I begin?
Yes, go ahead.
Status. Dr. Moolenaar.
Yes.
May I proceed?
I've pressed restart. Okay, so please continue with your question.
Okay. Status is important. Our symbols that represent this territory is important. But the nature of us not having a constitution is very, very important. We should not have to wait on status to decide our way forward and our relationship with this union called the United States. It's imperative that we as a people adopt a constitution, and then once we have adopted a constitution, make the necessary amendments that we find challenging. the mere fact we lack a constitution is creating operational challenges for us as citizens of the United States of America. It's even having challenges of us interacting with federal government and really hampering on us as a people from further developing. So my thing to the people of the Virgin Islands, yes, it's on the ballot. Vote yes, that we can move towards adopting the Organic Act as a constitution. After we have adopted the Organic Act, then we make those necessary revisions to the form of amendments. Thank you.
Great. Well, since you answered and gave us some time, let me ask a quick question. You're going to be the first responder on the next one, Mr. Ferris. I'll remember that. But for both of you, just a quick response. During your campaigning, do you intend to speak about the referendum to your followers and to the community as you move from town to town and talk about it? Do you intend to include that as part of your actions, Mr. Carrington?
No, that is not something I'm necessarily discussing at this point in time during my campaign with the people I meet, the constituents. What I'm doing is discussing some of my platform planks that I think are just as important as a constitution referendum.
Okay, Mr. Ferris?
I speak to all persons in regards to all relevant issues. If they ask the question and ask my views on it and how do I see us moving forward as a territory, then it's discussed. However, it's not a part of my campaign platform. What's a part of my platform is education, economy, and our environment.
Yeah, great.
Those are the mainstays of my platform.
I will make the point that it's a question on the ballot, and we want to encourage as many people to respond to it. And I know that the public will be looking to our leaders for directions and comments that will direct them on how they should consider this. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And Mr. Ferris, you're going to be the first responder on this. Again, 90 seconds.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Oh, I'm the first. Okay, yes, ma'am, you're right.
First responder on this. The COVID-19 pandemic has reaffirmed our fears of the territory being a one commodity economy, tourism, making us vulnerable economically. Can you identify, Mr. Ferris, two industries that could diversify our economy or reduce our economic vulnerability? And we want you to be sure to explain how you would, as a senator, help to promote their development. You have 90 seconds.
Dr. Moolenaar, thank you for that question. In regards to what was said, the Virgin Islands definitely is not a one product economy. We do have what takes place in St. Croix in terms of manufacturing. We have a rum manufacturing. We also have the lime tree plant. So definitely we have other aspects to our economy. But because we are so heavily focused on tourism and not focusing on other aspects, for instance, agriculture. Agriculture is something that we have been superficially discussing for the past however so long. But if we focus on agriculture, focus on those legislations that are already on the book, farm to table and classroom in the agriculture, and put some of those federal dollars that comes in for our school lunch program, our nutrition program for the elderly, we can really invest those funds into growing our agricultural sector and apply that. Then light manufacturing, we can definitely focus on light manufacturing, talk about products to support the market. A few years ago, we suffered a hurricane.
Mr. Ferris, remember the focus now is what you're going to do to help these.
I am going to do is focus on agriculture. One is agriculture and making sure I identify those legislations that need funding and invest those federal funds that are already there to grow the agricultural industry. Secondly, trees fell during the hurricane, and we can utilize those products to developing, making furniture, making tables, making cutting boards, making usable items to be resold.
Thank you. Your time is up there. And so now we move to Mr. Carrington. What would you do as a senator to promote these entities?
Well, one of the things I have to agree with Mr. Ferris that St. Croix is a place that is ripe for agricultural development. We have in the past been called the breadbasket of the Caribbean. and we in fact fed hundreds of people from other islands and things that we exported. So we need to really put some effort and put our money where our mouth is with respect to agriculture. I also think that, of course, we do have our manufacturing. Back in the days, we had light manufacturing, as alluded to by Mr. Ferris. We had watch factories in St. Croix. We had textile factories in St. Croix. So those things are things that we need to encourage and promote and engender. I also think that St. Croix can also be a place where we can do, for lack of a better term, medical tourism, whereby we can set this place up as a place that people who want to come to for medical treatment and for rest and relaxation. More pointedly, one of my platform planks speaks about the aging baby boomer population and the fact that a lot of people are going to be needing medical assistance and medical help with respect to Alzheimer's, dementia, and other type of diseases that afflict older people.
So what would you do as
I
a
would
senator?
I would want to encourage people to, I would want to encourage these type of industries in any way possible to come to our Virgin Islands, and we as a government need to develop them. Small example. There's a place in Frederick.
Excuse me, that's that time is up. You'll have a chance to expand on that a little bit in the program. But since we're on the topic of tourism, let me ask you, and this is not a time one, it's just a little conversation between the two of us here. You know that WICO is planning to expand the port in St. Thomas to bring in larger ships that will bring more thousands of people at a time. Should we evaluate our success as a tourism port by the number of people who come? Is it the number of people who come that's the important factor here? How would you address this issue? Just a brief statement from both of you. And Mr. Carrington, you can begin first with that. Just a conversation, the two of you.
I think that the number of people that come is one measure. I think that it's often revealed that the people who come here via plane rather than ship are the ones that spend the most money because they stay here the longest while. So that I'm not sure that quantification of success, simply the number of people who come here via ship, is the best measure by which we can measure success as a tourism destination.
Mr. Ferris? Mr. Ferris is muted.
Do excuse me. I would say first, WICO would need to revisit that idea at this present time, if that's of utmost important, since COVID, and we know that tourism traffic is going to definitely change as it pertains to cruise ship. We definitely need to look at land-based tourists who's coming to the airports and see how best we can attract them to come back to these shows over time.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so the next question, and Mr. Carrington, you're going to be the first responder here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have 60 seconds. One of the groups in our community that is continuously underserved by most elected officials is the disabled. What do you know about their needs, and what can you do as a senator to address their needs? If you're unfamiliar with their needs, what can you do to find out? And then once you do find out, what would you do? And we posed this question. We were asked by members of the disabled community to insist that this question be answered because they have complained that during the election season, the candidates always come and spend a lot of time with them, but then after election, they're forgotten.
One of my
this is a 60-second question.
All right. One of my specific platform planks deals with the plight of the needs of the elderly and handicapped in this territory. My father just died in 95. He had dementia for about 8 years. So it was a real profound experience seeing the needs of himself and realizing through that process the needs of other similarly situated individuals. Like I said, the baby boomer population is now coming of age. We can anticipate more of the same issues that are going to be increasing for elderly people. What I would do is encourage the government, as in the past, to develop homes for the elderly. There was one in Frederick called Aldersville. It's now empty. It's now going into disrepair. There's no reason why the government shouldn't be looking out for its people, especially these elderly people who have served their time and have contributed to the society.
Thank you. Mr. Ferris.
During my 25 years career, I've worked with persons in disabilities. I've spent 7 years at the Department of Human Services working with seniors and the disabled. So I understand the needs of that population. I know what some of their challenges are. I definitely can access the Department of Human Services, the Department of Education, for some of information in terms of what's taking place in that particular community. The needs are many. I have a disabled brother, so I do understand the needs of the community. And I know we have to start with first housing. We definitely have to start with housing. We have to start with workforce development and training. We have to, just as much as people leave, we want to make sure those who have challenges here can find jobs, grow here, and they can definitely flourish as part of our community. And that's what I offer. Vote Clint Ferris.
Thank you. So we're going to move on now to a 90-second question. And Mr. Ferris, you're going to begin with this one. It has to do with crime. Crime has not abated. In fact, it's gone exponentially. And we continue to see young men, women, and children being killed. So this is a two-part question. The first part is, what do you see as the root causes of the epidemic? And B, what ideas do you have that you could contribute to as a legislator, as a senator? What could you do to lessen this loss? Okay, so you have 90 seconds for that.
The root causes, I believe, to the crime problem that we are having is poverty, the cyclical poverty that we are immersed in as a community, the lack of opportunity, the denial of generational wealth to our people. Those are the things that contribute to poverty. To our poverty and to the crime problem that we do have. You cannot put a dent in the body count until we change mindset in this community. That means we need to change how all of us think as a community, from the smallest to the eldest to the organizations within our community. What I can do as a senator is definitely work on policies to make sure that our people can learn and get access to opportunity, policies that support the family, policies that put funding in the hands of non-profit organizations, that they can definitely arm our people with opportunity and retraining and really changing mindset from zero all the way to the grave, because we really need to do that. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Carrington, your turn.
The first question is the root causes of crime. I would say that while I agree with candidate Ferris that poverty and lack of opportunity are also contributing causes, I would also say that everything begins with the family and how you train your children. All right. If it takes a village to raise a child, I think one of the things that we've neglected to do in this society is to provide programs that train and occupy young people. Back in my day, we were the Boy Scouts, there was a Boys Club, there was a Youth Commission. These things occupied young men and women and helped to train them and to discipline them and set them in the right direction. I also think that there needs to be addressed the proliferation of guns in this territory. Keep in mind that the federal government, they're the ones that guard our ports. They're the ones that regulate and enforce what comes in at our airports and our seaports. So I think we need to have a conversation with the federal government with respect to how well they're doing their job to guard against these illegal firearms coming into the territory. Remember, there are no gun manufacturers in the Virgin Islands. So those guns must be coming from somewhere. And it's the federal government's job to ensure that that kind of contraband does not come here.
Thank you. Thank you for both of you. And still on this matter, across the nation, there have been cries, and I'm sure you've heard them, to defund the police because of their alleged cruel and inhumane treatment of citizens. Unfortunately, our local police department has a consent decree in which they have been tasked with rectifying similar kinds of behavior. Do you think that the department should be defunded in the Virgin Islands? And Mr. Carrington, we begin with you in 90
No,
seconds.
I don't think at all that it should be defunded. I think that the police the police training, or even before training, police screening is very important. There are a lot of people who actually shouldn't have the power and the authority that comes with being a police because they are not sensitive to the needs of people, may not know how to speak to people, may not be empathetic with people. And so back in the days, police were more like, how to say, police were friendly, police were more empathetic, police were closer to the community because we had a smaller community, I suppose. But what I think is that sensitivity training and screening of individuals before you bring them onto the police force is an important thing that we got to think about.
Mr. Ferris?
I would be totally against defunding the police, but we need to put some effort towards constitutional policing, having some level of collaboration with our federal partners, community policing, making sure that we focus on professional development. Once upon a time, being a police was a very physical job. Nowadays, a portion of the job is based on theory, understanding people, having interpersonal skills, understanding how people have the psychology of people and talking people down. So we need that theoretical teaching, the classroom training to be blended with the physical aspect of the job. And then we definitely need to be promoting professional training and ongoing training throughout the department of the policing. But I am definitely would be against defunding the police force within the Virgin Islands.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, let me ask a question. I'm sure you are aware of the fact that recently Senator Myron Jackson had put forward a bill to establish an Office of Gun Violence that was voted down. Were you in the legislature? What would have been your vote on this? And I'd like to hear your response, Senator Mr. Ferris.
I would have voted against the bill because I do believe within the police department, we have mechanisms in place. Within a lot of the other things, within our other departments, we have entities in place that can definitely focus on gun violence. We just keep making our government bigger, and instead of looking at areas where we can really focus on make a focus on that target effort of gun violence, we can definitely put it on the police department and have an agency within that area, within that office, instead of creating a new governmental entity to add more burden on the budget, to add more bodies into a bureaucracy that at times is too top heavy.
Okay, great. Mr. Carrington, what do you think about it?
I'm not that intimate with the particulars of Senator Jackson's bill, but I would say this. Looking at our past, we've passed increasing amounts of laws dealing with guns and increasing amount of punitive measures and punishment with respect to gun and gun violence. I don't see where that has garnered any results. So what I think that we need to look at is, as I said before, we need to look at the other aspects of gun violence, the other aspects of our society that result in gun violence. Child training, child occupation, making opportunity available for young people so that they don't go that direction, and so that we can teach them to be contributing, disciplined citizens of the Virgin Islands.
Great. Thank you both for that. The next question, I'm going to give you a list of things, and I want you to rate them. So if you had a little pencil, you might want to write down the list. It's about GERS. And there have been a number of proposals that have been offered. And I want you to rate these proposals as to which you think would work and which ones would not. And the first two were proposed by a UVI professor, Gerard Emanuel. And he said that we could consider, number one, a 14-cent tax on gasoline to contribute to the GERS. I believe there's already that, but he's saying what you could do is divert some of those tax dollars to the GERS. His second suggestion was that we restructure the Diageo benefits to save ourselves more dollars. As you know, there were some concerns in the community during the development of the Diageo benefits, and many people were objecting to that. They thought we were giving away too much. So he's suggesting maybe we should reconsider the terms of Diageo. The next two ideas came from the governor, who suggested that we seek a significant loan and also to refinance our debt. So how would you rate these ideas to raise revenues for GERS? And I believe, Mr. Ferris, you are the next one to begin that.
I believe I am.
Carrington. Mr. Carrington?
All right, so you've given us 4 proposals here.
Yes, and so how would you rate those 4 proposals?
I would rate the 14-cent reallocation of the 14-cent gas tax as number 1, the restructure of the Diageo benefits as number 2, refinance our debt, as number 3, and seeking a loan as number 4.
Okay, what's your rationale for that?
Oh, my rationale. So we are. I'm trying not to add any more burden on the backs of the people who can afford less to pay, and so while we're already paying a 14-cent tax on gas, we it's something we're doing as we speak. I believe that we can restructure the Diageo benefits and I actually feel that we should be looking at restructuring a lot of the tax benefits that we offer companies and individuals. But the Diageo one would be something that I think would not tax the common person. Seeking of the loan and the refinancing of the debt, I put those as 3 and 4 because one of the things I don't want us to do, and we're continually doing it, is to finance our present on the backs of our future generations, which is not fair.
Great, thank you. Mr. Ferris.
I truly have to agree with candidate Carrington about financing our debt and the futures of our children. That continues to be bothersome, and we continue to do that in this community. However, those 4 propositions that were made, I basically have to rank them 2, 3, 4, and 5, because I would have to say the first proposition that we need to revisit was something that was left on the table in 2018. Governor Mapp proposed a $300 million infusion of cash into the GRS system, and I thought that plan was very, very sustainable, very, very doable, and a portion of the plan calls to raising the cap and salary to that of the Social Security age, and which made sense us getting as much money into the system as possible, deferring insolvency and strengthening the system so we can have a more long-term plan. There's definitely other ways we can do this without going down this route.
Okay, great. Since we have time to that, let me ask as a follow-up question. Where was the $300 million going to come from?
The $300 million was tied to an agreement, as a portion of that was with the Ramada Yacht Haven dock in St. Thomas, a portion of that, and that was financing over a period of time, putting monies into GRS coffers.
Okay, Mr. Carrington, did you want to?
May I add that there? I've been reading up on the certain studies that was done, one as late as 2019 by the GRS, and one of the things that I think that we need to really consider is a tourist tax. There were taxes on different aspects of the tourism industry that a lot of different tourism jurisdictions enacted. And so we've got to look at the possibility of taxing our tourism industry so that we can get an infusion of cash to help the GRS situation. I don't think that there's one single possible contribution source, but the tourism tax would be among those that we discussed earlier.
Okay, great. So let me ask the next question, and that has to do with the fact that, and this one will be 60 seconds. In the previous administration and the current administration, there have been concerns regarding alleged nepotism. What can you do as a senator to address these concerns? And we have 60 seconds. I believe that's you, Mr. Carrington.
I believe it's
No,
Mr. Ferris.
Mr.
it's me.
Mr. Ferris, yes,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, ma'am. This has been even long before this administration or even the previous administration, where we talk about putting forth some sound rules and policies that govern um, ethical behavior of those within government and those within the semi-autonomous agencies of government. It's a high time that we legislate and put these things that are in and codify them to have high expectations of our officials in terms of making sure that we identify areas of conflict, making sure that we stay away from those unethical behaviors that create problem for our community down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Carrington.
I think that one of the things that I did when I worked at government and when I actually applied for with the Board of Education for candidacy is to fill out a form that spoke to my investments, my things that can pose a possible conflict of interest. Now we can legislate all we want. I'm sure that there are conflict of interest laws on the books in the Virgin Islands, but at the end of the day, we've got to be able to screen, and I'm talking about the constituency, the voting population should be able to screen the type of individuals that they elect to office. At the end of the day, we can't legislate morality.
Okay, great. And you're both answering it in time that we have enough time to ask some more questions. So let me ask, what are key issues in education or in health that you can influence as a senator? What would you want to address as a senator in either education or in health were you elected?
All right.
And you will have 90 seconds for that because I think is going to give you're going to need a lot of thought about what you're going to say and be careful about what you're going to say. So we will start, I believe that with Mr. Carrington.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Every dark cloud has a silver lining. The COVID-19 dark cloud has shown us that the government, when necessary, can use the resources it has to do things in a different way. For example, I have a young man here living with me, my son, who this summer engaged in online learning with a teacher, as just similarly as we're doing this online conversation. It was very insightful to me in that it showed me how the teacher interacts with that child. It also allowed me to be around the child as the child was learning and be a part of that child's education process. I think that COVID-19 has shown us there's a different way to educate people. Everybody is not necessarily a classroom type individual. And in fact, some people learn better in more isolated situations. So that is one of the things that I would think that we want to consider in going forward in education.
Okay, and so I will ask Mr. Ferris, what would you want to do?
What I would like to do, if elected, is definitely be about creating an environment that school-based management can flourish. Two, making sure that instead of saying that we have a CTEC program, that we actually do have a CTEC program by making sure that we can hire the right professionals to be in those classrooms to teach. And thirdly, the infrastructure. It's definitely an opportunity. We have arrived at this intersection where COVID has presented an opportunity for different types of teaching, but we have to make sure the infrastructure in place to support learning and support the teachers and the learners who are going to be in our school system.
Now, interestingly, both of you addressed education. And neither one of you address health. Do you want to make any comments about health, beginning with Mr. Ferris?
I'm of the opinion that if there's no greater affirming action we can make as a community than coming up with a system of universal health care for those persons 0 to 18 years and those persons 60 till they transition to the grave, because we need to take care of the most vulnerable. That's something I would like to spend some time looking at and see how we can get the funding, because it's going to require a lot of funding to make sure we can provide universal health care for the very young and to the very old in our community.
Great, thank you. Mr. Carrington.
I did mention in a previous question about the need to look out for our senior citizens that are maybe suffering mental impairment and mental issues, and I would add that that needs to be done with people who are suffering mental issues, whether they be young or old. But what I would like to go back to is education, if I may. And having served as a counsel for the Board of Education at one point, it was very interesting to me that when I met other similarly situated, my counterparts in the States during conferences and such, our Board of Education does not have the type of power that other boards of education in other jurisdictions have. More specifically, the Board of Education in those other jurisdictions actually run the curriculum, actually run the day-to-day operations of the schools. The Department of Education, as we have it, is more of an administrative agency, whereas in those other jurisdictions, their Board of Education are tasked with the day-to-day operation of schools. I'm saying all this to say that I feel that our Board of Education needs to be able to be more empowered with respect to the day-to-day operations of our schools.
That's a very interesting point, and I've heard the point made before. Mr. Ferris, what's your take on that?
My take is a very similar take, that I do believe the Board of Education needs to be solely in charge of operating the schools, and the Department of Education needs to be the regulatory and monitoring agency, and not just for the public school, but for the entire education system in the Virgin Islands. We really need to strengthen our educational system laws in terms of that governs both the parochial and private schools. So everything is a seamless system, not just public education exists here and everything is just placed on public education. We need to have an overall revamping, restructuring of the educational system so we can definitely bring about a renaissance in education.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Carrington, you needed to follow up on that, or you're fine with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, great. Okay, the next question. The governor has proposed that making recreational marijuana available to tourists through the purchase of a special permitting card for $10 per day would be profitable and help GERS. Do you have any concerns about this proposal, or do you see it as a workable and desirable solution for the United States Virgin Islands? And who begins that? Mr. Carrington, are you beginning that?
I think that that's but one avenue of revenue that needs to be generated through GRS. Like I said before, there needs to be different and several streams to fund this 200. I think it's as my notes tell me, it's unfunded mandate is about $2.933 billion. So one source is there's no one fix for the GRS system. The proposal by the governor is a good one, but that will definitely not go far enough. But it'll be one source that can help us.
Great, Mr. Ferris, do you have any concern? Interesting.
I was very concerned about that legislation about recreational use. I do understand we need to put monies into GRS, but we can't do that and jeopardize our community. We in 2019 we signed the medical marijuana bill into legislation, and now we are rushing towards recreational use. We have not even spent time to assess what is taking place underneath this new law with medical marijuana. We haven't even fully arrived where everything is in place for medical marijuana usage, but we are now talking about recreational use. Am I for recreational use? Yes. Am I for making sure those revenues that can be access through that new industry be given to GRS? Yes, but I think we need to do that cautiously and find out the data first before we just say recreational use.
Okay, great. We're coming down to the point where I would like to ask a question that allows you to bring up a topic. Are there any questions or any topics that we have not addressed that's on your platform that you would like to talk about now, or anything that we have discussed that you wanted to expand on? And so, Mr. Ferris, we begin with you first. Anything new you'd like to bring up?
I can always talk about the environment because that
Wonderful.
seems to be one of the things that affects us in the community cyclically.
Yes.
Because if you look, we're now talking about the landfill situation and St. Croix and Bovoni in St. Thomas. We need to definitely have a conversation about the reduction of our waste, the reusing of our waste, the recycling of our waste, and make sure we can adequately fund the Waste Management Authority and give some level of rebirth to the Anti-Litter and Beautification Commission that went defunct under when we created the Waste Management Authority some 20 years ago.
Yeah, you still have about 15 seconds more.
I'll take his 15 seconds if he doesn't
And
want
I
it.
pass it on to you, Devin. Go ahead, do your thing.
Okay.
Um, um, environment is very important. It's part of my platform. There's a broad topic I want to talk about that we've been skirting for 40, 45, 50 years, and that is the comprehensive land and water use plan. The Virgin Islands needs to enact a comprehensive land and water use plan as required by the statute. If not, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we have a patchwork of zoning here and there. People stop me. Carrington, why is there a gas station here? Why is this there? It's because we're not putting a plan together. That plan, that comprehensive land and water use plan, is an umbrella for the environmental issues that we are dealing with. One of my platform planks is for us to look at the Queen Mary Highway. We named it after Queen Mary because of its cultural and historical significance. But we do nothing to enhance it. We do nothing to show that we honored the sacrifices of those people in the past. During the hurricane, there were several mahogany trees that had needed to be pruned by WAPA due to entanglement of wires after the last two hurricanes. Most of those trees were actually decimated to the point where some of them are no longer living. I say, for each tree that was decimated, we plant two. When I was a little boy growing up here, there was a canopy from Frederickstead all the way to Christiansted, all over the Central Line Road. That is no longer the case. I also think that we need to be able to not just name things in honor of people, but find a way to actually show that we appreciate their sacrifices. So for example, all those damaged mahogany trees, instead of cutting them down and letting somebody privately profit off of that wood, why not commission some persons in the Virgin Islands to do some sculptures of Queen Mary, of Bottombelly, of Bordeaux, all along the Central Line Road, so that we can really show that we honor the accomplishments and the sacrifices of our ancestors.
I should say that both of you have really hit the ball out of the ballpark for the League of Women Voters, because concern about the environment and climate change have both been on our agenda for the longest while. So what I would like to do now is to ask you, gentlemen, to think about your closing statements. And I will begin with Mr. Ferris. You can give your closing statements for 2 minutes if you'd like.
Vote Clint Ferris number 7 on the ballot. I have that heart of a servant. I have the fire in my belly to be that courageous voice, that strategic thinker, that fighter that St. Croix so desperately needs and deserves. I've laid out the framework for my tenure as a Virgin Islands senator representing the St. Croix district. I have a vision of transforming our potential and turning it into that acquired momentum that would lead to our collective prosperity. Simply, I'm about sparking and renaissance in the educational system, revitalizing our environment, and diversifying and strengthening our economy. The time is now. We comprehensively combat poverty and the barriers preventing us and many Virgin Islanders from accessing, acquiring, and growing wealth. I say unapologetically, a strong St. Croix means a strong Virgin Islands. On November 3rd, vote Clint Ferris. I'm number 7 at the ballot. And to the League of the Women Voters and to WTJX, I thank you for hosting this forum today.
Great. Thank you so very much. And so we go now to Mr. Carrington, and you have your 2 minutes if you'd like.
Let me say that I am a product of a woman that was born and raised in Savannah and a gentleman that was born and raised in Fredericksburg. And so as a native Virgin Islander, I feel that I have an obligation to contribute to the betterment of this land. I've had a lot of experiences educationally, government-wise. I've also been able to reap the benefits of that education and the upbringing that those 2 persons gave to me. And they always taught me, to those much is given, much is expected. So I feel that I still have the energy, I have the experience, I have the education to contribute to these Virgin Islands. That's what I intend to do. The only promise that I make is to work hard, because I know the beast, I know the legislature, I know the deliberative process the legislature is, and that I would need 7 persons plus myself to be successful in passing any legislation. What I will do is be as cooperative as I can in my deliberations, be as reasonable and rational as I can, and try my best to push the platform that I have in mind for the betterment of these Virgin Islands. And so I ask people to judge me on my experience, my education, my articulation, and give me a vote if you find that I possess the qualifications that is needed in a senator in the legislature.
Great. Thank you so very much. Well, time has certainly flown, and we are now at the end of our program. On behalf of WTJX and the League of Women Voters, I want to thank WTJX. Well, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank WTJX and its staff for this opportunity to bring together the candidates for elective office, the 34th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, to our voting public. We also want to thank the candidates for taking the time to be here. The League encourages all to vote in November. This year, 2020, marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment that granted some women the right to vote. We need to all exercise that right that so many do not have in other countries. I want to remind our voting public to remember that this year there will be a referendum question on the ballot having to do with the Constitution for the Virgin Islands. I encourage the public to look for announcements of the League's education program on the referendum right here on WTJX. We are planning for a program on educating for the referendum right here on WTJX. And you can find out more about the League's website on www.lwvvi.org. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, WTJX. And we tell the voting public, be sure to vote.